Hey friends, Rachel Alford here from Cozy Nooks Designs, and today we're going to make the Beginner Crochet Pumpkin. This is an absolute beginner pattern and I just really adore it. It's so cute, the little leather stems. You can make them traditional leather, or you can use a stick or a cinnamon stick, anything creative that you want to use for the leather stem there. We will be making it into a rectangle and then sewing the two shorter edges together and cinching the bottom and the top together. I have a lot of different patterns in my Absolute Beginner Crochet series, so check it out here. I taught Absolute Beginner Crochet classes for several years. It's one of my favorite things to do, so I have quite a few patterns that I will be continuing to add to that series, so make sure you subscribe and continue to watch if you are interested. All right, let's grab our hook and yarn and let's get started. These are the materials needed for the Beginner Crochet Pumpkin pattern. You're going to need worsted weight yarn, which is weight 4. You'll need about 26 yards of that. You'll need a size G 4.0 millimeter crochet hook, Polyfil leather remnant for the stem, or you can just use a stick from outside, a tapestry needle, scissors, and then I cannot find my hot glue gun. You also need a hot glue gun, but I think we know what that looks like, right? I'm hoping I can find that by the time I get to that step in the pattern. So there are two different sizes for this pattern. If you are an absolute beginner, I recommend this size just because it's smaller and more manageable. But really this one isn't going to be that much harder. It's just going to take a little bit more time. And so in the pattern, you're going to see numbers. One that's not in parentheses, which is this size. And if you see something in parentheses, it is referencing the bigger size. So those are the two differences between the sizes. Again, if you're an absolute beginner, I'd recommend this size. I will be making this smaller size, but this beginning part is the same for both sizes. It says that we need to have a long beginning tail. So I'm gonna give myself, this is probably just shy of a foot. Give yourself about a foot, and then we are going to make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, you need to loop the yarn on itself like this. My ball of yarn is attached on this side, and then I'm going to take the loop and fold it down. Sorry, there we go. So you want the tail to be on top, the loop of the tail to be on top, and then you're going to fold it down on the strand that's attached to the ball of yarn so that it's in the middle of the loop. So let me do it again. You can see I have my loop with the tail part on top, and then I'm going to take it and fold it down on the working yarn so that it is in the center of the circle. Then I'm going to grab that yarn and pull it up like this, and it creates a knot. And you can see if I pull on the end, it gets smaller, the loop gets smaller, or I can make the loop bigger like that. So I'm gonna put my hook in the loop there, and I'm going to cinch it down until I have about this much space on my hook. You don't want it too tight because you want to be able to move your hook through it, but you don't want it too loose either. So now that we have it on our hook, I'm going to chain 11. So I'm going to put my hook under the yarn. So I go yarn over, and then I'm going to pull through this loop, and that's one chain. Let me do it again. Yarn over, you see how the yarn is over the hook, and then I pull through, and that's 2 chains. Again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So let's look at these chains together. You can see that they are making V's. Each one of these V's is a chain. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. We do not count this loop that our hook is on. So we did it correctly by chaining 11. And then it says we need to single crochet 1 in the second chain from hook. So we don't count this that's on our hook, and so we count over 1, 2. This is the stitch that we will go into. So I'm going to insert my hook under this loop because I'm ignoring this one and I'm going into the second chain from my hook. So I go into this stitch and then I'm going to do a single crochet. I'm going to yarn over, so you can see the yarn is over my hook, and I'm going to pull through that first loop. Now I have 2 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to yarn over again and pull through both loops on my hook, and that is 1 single crochet. Now we're going to go into the next stitch. You can see we've already worked this stitch because this single crochet is coming from this loop. So we're not going to work this one again. We're going to go into the next one. The next one is right here. So inserting my hook into this stitch, I'm going to yarn over, pull through that first loop, and now I have 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through both loops. So that is my second single crochet. And you can see that we've already worked this stitch. So the next stitch we will go into is right here. So inserting my hook into that stitch, I yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So let's talk about what these look like, what these single crochets look like. You can see the V's are facing up now, and these are single crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3 single crochets. And you can count it by putting it and looking at the side of the piece like this, or you can rotate it towards you. And now you can see we have sideways V's again. So we can count the V's that are sideways, 1, 2, 3, and that's how many stitches we have done. Right here is that beginning chain that we ignored. So don't get confused by that. This is not a stitch. So when you are counting your stitches, it can be tricky at the beginning of the rows and at the end of the rows. So if your piece is getting wider and you're not sure why, or if it's getting skinnier and it's turning into a triangle, it's probably because if it's wider, you're working a chain or something that you shouldn't be working. If it is getting skinnier and turning into a triangle, that means you're not working that last stitch and you're dropping 1 stitch each row. So let's continue doing our single crochets across. The next stitch we will go into is right here. So I'm going to insert my hook, draw up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2. All right, I'm going to do that all the way across until we get to the last 2 stitches so that we can do the end of the row together. Okay, so you can see we have our last 2 stitches here. You can see it's right here, 1 and 2. Those are our last 2 stitches. This is the beginning slip knot, so we ignore this. It's just 1, 2. So we insert our hook into that loop or that chain. We draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then going into this last stitch, we insert our hook, draw up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So that is the end of our row, and now we need to count to make sure we've done this correctly. In the pattern, it says that we need to have 10 stitches for this row, so we need to count. This is our loop that we ignore, and then these sideways V's, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we have done it correctly. And I recommend counting after the end of each row just because it can get kind of confusing, which is why I recommend this pattern as a beginner, an absolute beginner pattern, because you're going to be making a long rectangle, and so you'll be able to see clearly whether you are dropping a stitch or creating too many stitches, because it will not be a straight line. So it's a good one to learn on and be able to make sure you're actually working the stitches correctly. The pattern then says rows 2 through 23, we need to chain 1, single crochet across, turn, and that we should end with 10 stitches in each of those rows. So you're just going to be doing the same thing for the 23 rows. So let's work this next row together. So we need to chain 1. Oh, sorry. So I yarn over and then pull through. That's my chain. And then I turn my work. And in the pattern notes, it says the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So for some patterns, it does count for a stitch. For most of my patterns, it does not count as a stitch. So don't include this beginning chain in our stitch count. So the first stitch we're going to go into is right here. So let me get this hook out of the way. Before we were just going into chains, but if we rotate the work towards us, we can see these V's that we've been counting. So going into the front and the back of the V, so under both of the loops for this row here. This is called the front loop and this is called the back loop. It doesn't matter for this pattern, but just so you know, that's what they're called. And you're going to go through both of them like this and work the stitch like that. So let me get my hook back in here. Okay, so going into right here, I'm going to yarn over, draw up a loop. I have 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's our first single crochet in row 2. The next stitch we're going to work is this right here. And again, we're going to go under both the front and the back loop to work this stitch. So I'm inserting my hook like this, and then I'm going to yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's our second stitch. The next stitch we will work is right here. So I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And now let's count our single crochets for this row, just so we can see what they look like. So here's our beginning chain, which we are ignoring, and then you can see our V's, 1, 2, and 3. So you can see we've done 3 stitches. We can also count it by looking at it this way, and you can see we have 1, 2, and 3 sideways V's. So we have done 3 so far. I'm going to do the rest of this row except for the last 2. So I have the last 2 of this row. You can see I have one right here, 1 and 2. There's also this weird bump out right here, but this is not a stitch. This is our turning chain from the row 1. So we do not go into this. We go right here and here. So I'm going to insert my hook into that first one, drop a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And then going into this last stitch, yarn over, drop a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So let's count our stitches. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we've done this row correctly because we have 10. Let's do one last row together. So you chain 1, turn your work, and then we're ready to work row 3. So we go into this stitch right here, and I'm going to do 10 single crochets across. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can see our last stitch is right here. This is our beginning chain 1 from the previous row, and so we ignore this, but we work that stitch right there. So I'm going to insert my hook and do my last single crochet, and then let's count our stitches together. So looking at the sideways V's when I rotate it towards me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we've done that row correctly. So I am going to do the next 20 rows. So it's from rows 2 through 23 that we're supposed to do. We're supposed to end on row 23. We will do the last few stitches of row 23 together, and then we will assemble the pumpkin together. Here I am on my 23rd row, but let's discuss how to count rows. So when you are looking at a single crochet stitch, it makes these V's if it's right side facing you, or if you're looking at the back side, then it's going to make these V's that are upside down. So you can see we have our beginning chains right here, and then you see these upward V's. So this is row 1, and then between here and here is row 2. Row 3 is right there in between these two spots, because you can see these upwards V's. Then we have the upside down V's, right side V's, upside down V's, right side V's. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and here's my 23rd row. So now I'm just going to finish doing my single crochets across, just 1 single crochet in each stitch, and making sure that I end with 10 single crochets in this row. Okay, so I've done my last stitch here, and then it says do not fasten off. Oh, sorry, so then we need to cut a 1-foot tail. So you make a 1-foot tail here, and then you're going to cut, and we will be using that tail to help sew up. So now we're going to take our beginning tail and place the 2 shorter ends together like this. Actually, I'll do it this way, like this. And then I'm going to sew them together. So making sure I go under both loops, I'm going to sew this up like this. This is going to make this rectangle circular for us, and is going to be the body of the pumpkin. And then we will use the ending tail to sew up the bottom and the top. And I'll show you how to do that. All right, so I reached my last stitch and I'm gonna go through one more time just for added security there. And if you open it up now, you can see we have this raised ridge. And so we're gonna say that this is the inside of the pumpkin. And so we're going to flip it right side out. And this is gonna give us a much better seam. It doesn't have a ridge anymore. So now this is the right side out of the pumpkin. This tail that we did use, we don't need it anymore because we can use this beginning tail for the rest of the project. So we can just weave in the end. So to weave in a crochet end, I just went one more time just to be safe. I'm gonna do it on the inside of the work. I probably should have done this before I flipped it right side out, so maybe I'll go back. All right, so this is the inside of my pumpkin, and you're just going to go through these stitches. I'm just grabbing one side of a stitch all the way across like this. Go across for 4 or 5 stitches. And then skip the last one you did and then going back through the ones you just came. That helps really lock it in. And since this is an inside of a pumpkin that no one will see, you can even just knot it. But don't tell anyone that you did that because crocheters frown on that. But hey, I'm not gonna judge ya. So I'm just gonna do this for added security, even though we probably would have been fine. So you can cut this off if you want, or if you just want to leave it for added stuffing, you can. It doesn't really make a difference. Now, using our beginning tail, we're going to do a running stitch around the top of the pumpkin here, and it's going to close it, and then we're going to do it around this end as well. So to do a running stitch, you're just going to go back and forth along the top with your tapestry needle. And then pull through every few stitches or so. I'm gonna wait to cinch it up until I get all the way around to the beginning. But you can see I'm just going through the top rim here. And this will close up the pumpkin nicely. I have reached the beginning of where my tail was, so I'm going to now cinch it up. You have to be careful not to pull it too tight. So you can see cinching it up here. And if you pull it and you have a small gap still, you can grab a stitch on one side and pull it back. Let me show you how. So I'm going to grab opposite of my beginning tail. I'm going to grab a stitch here like that and then pull it. And you can see that helps close it up as well. You can do it on the other side also. Like that. So you see we've closed up one end of our pumpkin. Now to get to the top, I like to go through the center. So I stick my tapestry needle in and pull up. This helps create the like squattiness of the pumpkin. And I like how it looks when you do it this way. You don't have to go through the center if you don't want to. If you want to cut a separate strand and do the running stitch around, that's fine as well. But this is just how I like to do it. So I went from front to back, you can see here, and then, sorry, back to front and then front to back. I'm just doing the running stitch around again, around the top rim here. And then when I reach the beginning, instead of just cinching it, I need to put in my polyfill. So I'm at the beginning of my running stitch again. So I'm going to, I have a little hole still, and I'm going to grab little portions of polyfill and stuff it in. Okay, so I feel like this is a good amount of polyfill for this. So I'm going to cinch this up. And you don't have to get a super clean closure on this one because we will be putting the stem, and that will help hide if there's a gap. But I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the bottom by grabbing a stitch on the opposite side of my opening, like that, and giving it a tug. And then I'm going to do it over here on this side. There we go. So that looks pretty good to me. And then I am going to secure this. You can either go in and try to like weave it in. I'm just going to do a knot. This is going to be covered by the stem, and I would feel better if this was really secure. So I'm going to tie a knot to really make sure that this closure is secured. There we go. Do it again. Like that. Like that. Okay, and then I am going to not weave these in. I'm just going to put it down through my center and then snip it so that the yarn end is inside of it. Okay, so now we are ready to do our stem, and I think it's super cute to do a leather stem like this one with it just rolled, or you can do a cute creative one like this. So let's do a rolled one together. Let's see, how big do I want this one? Y'all, I need to get new craft scissors. My kids have been getting a hold of my scissors and it's driving me crazy. So it doesn't work as well. So anyway, bear with me as I try to slice through this. Okay, so I have my little leather strip here. So I could not find my hot glue gun anywhere. It's driving me crazy. I cannot find it. I've looked everywhere. But anyway, so then you would take your hot glue gun, dab it on, and then put it on like that. I'm gonna probably end up using craft glue, fabric glue or something, or maybe even super glue. I don't know. I'm so annoyed about that. So anyway, but that is how you attach the leather stem to the top. So let's just pretend like that happens. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you liked it. I am Rachel from Cozy Nooks Designs, and make sure that you give it a thumbs up, comment if you have any questions, and subscribe to my channel.